you, Darlene. I have just a very short presentation. I want to leave a lot of time for questions. And I know it's the evening. I appreciate people coming out when you have other things to do just before Thanksgiving. We went out and bought a turkey a couple of days ago, so we're already starting to think about that. This is a really interesting region. It's I think one of the prettiest areas of Virginia, but that brings some challenges in terms of terrain and deploying both wired and wireless broadband. And so I want to tell you just a little bit about what we found and some of the solutions we've developed. The study area included Craig County, Allegheny County, Clifton Forge, Covington, and northern Montaton. It's a very large area. We've worked with a number of other areas in Virginia. This is, in terms of area, it's one of the largest places we've tried to study, and I really came to appreciate the challenges of geography that the Allegheny Highlands has to deal with. It's tough for a number of reasons. We did business and residential surveys, and we had really a very large response. We've been doing broadband surveys for about 12 or 14 years now, and this region made it very clear, both from the businesses that responded and the residents that responded, that you're not satisfied, generally speaking, with what you have today. We know there are, in fact, pockets of people that are still on dial-up. There's many people that are trying to use satellite, which is better than dial-up, but is still very frustrating. You can't do anything, a lot of business type things like Skype video conferencing don't work very well over satellite. There is some DSL and there is some fiber in the region. That's one of the interesting things that we found. You actually have an incumbent telephone company, Lumos, who is in the back today, that is actually making an effort to upgrade many parts of the area to fiber services. And I can tell you that that's actually very rare in Virginia. And so one of the things we did find is that I think wireless broadband is going to be very important here for a while, and there's really two kinds of wireless. A lot of you are still using or trying to use the wireless connection over your cell phone, which can be very expensive particularly if you have kids in the house and they're trying to do homework or play games or watch movies. So there's also what we call just wireless broadband. It's a faster form of Wi-Fi, and it can travel several miles from the tower to your home or your business. And we think that's going to be part of the solution, but there's a kind of a balance here that's interesting and difficult for you. While you do have fiber being deployed in the region, you actually have no wireless internet service providers right now. In central Virginia, for example, starting really just over on the other side of 81 in places like Nelson County and Albemarle and Orange County and around Culpeper, there's often several wireless internet service providers that are getting onto towers and offering pretty good wireless broadband service. So we think wireless broadband is going to be a solution here, but part of the key to that solution is getting some more tower space for wireless internet service providers, and then finding some of those providers to offer the service. So as Darlene said, there's a lot of confusion about broadband. Broadband is the pipe. Internet is one of the services that you can deliver over the pipe. On a fiber or even a good wireless broadband connection, you can not only get internet service, you can get voice telephone service, you can get streaming. video, things like Netflix and Slingbox and Roku and Hulu have become very, very popular. How many people in the room have cut the cord? You no longer have a cable TV or satellite subscription. Not very many, because you don't have a lot of cable here to cut in the first place. That's another challenge for this region, is a lot of you live in areas where there in fact is no cable service. So if you want to cut your, figuratively, your satellite service, you'd have to have really good, a good internet connection so you can stream. And that's one of the most common complaints we heard in the surveys. People want to have more access to the kinds of services that are available on the internet. People that are able to get rid of their cable or satellite service and just get TV and video over the internet are reporting generally they're spending about half what they were formerly spending for a cable or satellite subscription. And that seems to be pretty common. So better internet can also translate into spending less money on access for things like cable TV. The FCC keeps moving the bar up. That hasn't helped you very much. It was formerly 10 meg down and 1 meg up. They've redefined broadband recently. You're well served with broadband if you have 25 meg down and 3 meg up. And outside of the areas where Lumos is providing fiber services, there's very few places in the region where that kind of speed is available. A lot of what the broadband study team and management team talked about was really the importance of broadband to business. And we think that from a business perspective, it's not really about a number. It's about making sure the businesses in this region have whatever amount of broadband they need to be competitive with other parts of the country and other parts of the world. So that was a lot of the focus, was making sure that moving forward in the region, businesses here have what they need to stay here, to grow, and to create more jobs. Just a couple of quick slides here to kind of give you a perspective about the differences in the amount of bandwidth and speed that's available. Actually, on dial-up, if I really represented the areas properly, you wouldn't be able to see that dot for dial-up. It's so small compared to the other services we have. Here's a slide that just shows you a little bit about what the difference is if you've got 1 meg, which would be typical. 1 to 5 meg would be typical for DSL, and how fast 100 megabit and gigabit fiber is. It really makes a huge difference in terms of being able to do things online at home or in your business. So why should the community be investing in broadband? That's one of the things we talked about a lot. It's a new idea that communities ought to begin making investments in telecommunications infrastructure. The goal here is not to have Allegheny County or Craig County or Clifton Forge go into competition with the service providers here. And Darlene does not want to be getting phone calls on Monday morning about how TV was out over the weekend and what she's going to do about it. We really think about and have talked about community investments at the county or town level or the city level here, thinking about it the same way you think about roads. Communities build roads. We have a single shared road system in the Allegheny Highlands. All of the public and private entities use those roads to deliver goods and services. So we have a shared road system that enables commerce and enables businesses to have jobs and create jobs and grow. So we're also beginning to look at the value of local government, beginning to make some investments like additional towers for wireless broadband or putting conduit and fiber in the ground, and then making that infrastructure, those assets available to companies like Shentel or Lumos to reduce their cost of getting more service out to more of you over time. So what are the current conditions? As I said, we know many of you have very poor internet service. On the other hand, you do have better fiber service in some parts of the region than many other parts of Virginia. And as I mentioned, you have no wireless internet service providers. So we think that one of the most important things going forward is for the region to begin to look at how can you begin to attract some wireless service providers to help the folks that live in outside of some of the Lumos and Chantel service areas to get better broadband. Also talked about cable service is very limited. So it's very difficult. Again, a very important focus of this study was economic development, jobs creation, and business growth. And so in the surveys we heard very consistently, there's many people that are trying to work from home and find that difficult to do. The good news is, because you do have some residential areas that do have fiber, we did find that those areas were attracting people that are trying to work from home or have a job from home. So that is helping. We also heard both here and in other parts of Virginia where we're working, we hear pretty consistently from real estate agents that the lack of broadband really affects property values and the ability of people to buy and sell homes. We got literally hundreds of comments from our surveys. It would take a very long time to go through them. Just a couple of examples that jumped out. Craig County Health Center can't provide proper health services because they don't have the right kind of broadband in the Newcastle area. We heard very consistently from mostly mothers, but some dads as well, stories of having to drive their kids to library in the afternoon or some other public hotspot so that the kids can do their homework. I travel a lot in Virginia, and there's a lot of McDonald's around, and they usually have pretty good internet service. I found I just walk around the parking lot in the afternoon, I can usually spot a couple of vans with 2 or 3 kids in it, and the mom's checking her email, and the kids are doing homework in the van. That's a pretty sad state of affairs. So the goal here is really try to help with that. So our recommendations, we think that localities in the area ought to form a broadband authority, work more closely with the private sector companies like Lumos and Chantel that are beginning to or have been spending more money and are trying to expand service. We think the authority can develop some grants, and in fact we've already begun talking to the Department of Housing and Community Development and some of the providers about a small pot of grant money that's available now, and there'll be more available in 2017 to help the private providers expand their service. There's some other kinds of grants, community development block grants and Appalachian Regional Commission grants may also be available. We've talked about making space available on county-owned towers for wireless service providers, and making sure that public safety tower expenditures are also being coordinated to help get internet service providers on public safety towers. That's all I have, and I'm happy to take questions. Some of the management team is here. We may call on them. Lumos folks are in the back if you have questions for them, and I'm happy to stay as long as you're interested.